Welcome to Washington Today for Friday, November 21st, 2025. I'm Gary Stairkoff. Thank you for joining us. President Trump and incoming New York City Mayor Zohran Mamdani met at the White House this afternoon. It's their first meeting since the New York City election earlier this month, and it comes after months of public hostility between the two, with the president calling the mayor-elect a communist and even threatening to arrest and deport him, while the mayor-elect himself has accused the president of acting like an authoritarian. We'll hear part of what they said to reporters coming up. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said that his country's alliance with the U.S. could be at a breaking point. His comments come as the White House pressed President Zelensky to respond by Thanksgiving to its plan to end the war with Russia. Several media reports say the plan includes several items favorable to Russia. President Zelensky put out a video statement about it today. We'll hear part of it coming up. This afternoon's meeting at the White House opened up to the press about 3:35 p.m. Eastern Time. Here's how it began.
Well, thank you very much. We've just had a great meeting, a really good, very productive meeting. We have one thing in common. We want this city of ours that we love to do very well. And I wanted to congratulate the mayor. He really ran an incredible race against, a lot of smart people, starting with the early primaries against some very tough people, very smart people. And he beat him easily, and I congratulated him. And we talked about some things in very strong common, like housing and getting housing built, and food and prices, and the price of oil is coming way down. That anything I do is going to be good for New York. If I can get prices down, it's good for New York, and we've got them down, way down from last year. We have. As you know, I've been saying to a lot of people, Walmart said that Thanksgiving this year is exactly 25% less than last year. So that's good for New York, good for everybody. But I just want to congratulate. I think you're going to have, hopefully, a really great mayor. The better he does, the happier I am, I will say. There's no difference in party. There's no difference in anything. And we're going to be helping him to make everybody's dream come true, having a strong and very safe New York. And congratulations, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you.
I appreciate it.
Please.
I appreciated the meeting with the president, and as he said, it was a productive meeting focused on a place of shared admiration and love, which is New York City, and the need to deliver affordability to New Yorkers, the 8.5 million people who call our city their home, who are struggling to afford life in the most expensive city in the United States of America. We spoke about rent, we spoke about groceries, we spoke about utilities, we spoke about the different ways in which people are being pushed out, and I appreciated the time with the president. I appreciated the conversation. I look forward to working together to deliver that affordability for New Yorkers.
Thank you very much.
Now, one of the first questions to the president and the mayor-elect came from Fox News' Jackie Heinrich about today's House resolution condemning socialism.
Asked the mayor-elect about a House resolution just passed overwhelmingly to condemn socialism, including with 86 Democrats, all of House Dem leadership, and the minority leader, Hakeem Jeffries, despite his endorsement of you. What's your reaction to that?
I have to be honest with you, I focused very little on resolutions. Frankly, I've been focusing...
Condemn socialism.
I understand. I think the focus is on the work at hand. I can tell you I am someone who is a democratic socialist. I've been very open about that. And I know there might be differences about ideology, but the place of agreement is the work that needs to be done to make New York City affordable. That's what I look forward to.
And I want to clarify your answer to Stephen Nelson. He asked about your comment calling the president a fascist. And your answer was, both President Trump and I have been clear about our positions and our views. Are you affirming that you think President Trump is a fascist?
I've spoken about...
That's okay. You can just say yes.
Okay.
So.
All right.
Okay. It's easier. It's easier than explaining it. I don't mind.
The New York Times writing that Zohran Mamdani seemed to be slightly uncomfortable with the president's flattery at today's meeting. Here's more.
Go ahead, please.
You're a billionaire. You have a different address nowadays than you used to, but you used to call New York City home. Would you feel comfortable living in New York City under a Mamdani administration?
Yeah, I would. I really would. Especially after the meeting. Absolutely.
What makes you comfortable?
We agree on a lot more than I would have thought. I think I want him to do a great job, and we'll help him do a great job. He may have different views, but in many ways, we were discussing when Bernie Sanders was out of the race, I picked up a lot of his votes, and people had no idea, because he was strong on not getting ripped off in trade and lots of the things that I've practiced and been very successful on. Tariffs, a lot of things. Bernie Sanders and I agreed on much more than people thought. And when he was put out of the race, I think quite unfairly, if you want to know the truth, many of the Bernie Sanders voters voted for me. And I felt very comfortable, frankly, in seeing that and saying that. And, you know, it just turned out to be a statistical truth. But no, I feel very comfortable. I would feel very, very comfortable being in New York, and I think much more so after the meeting. Yes, please.
The president and the mayor-elect were also asked about Zohran Mamdani's position in the Democratic Party following his win.
As the true leader of the Democrat Party, and do you think Leader Schumer is a leader Jeffries, have to follow his lead?
Well, look, I hope they have great leaders. This is a man that right now I think is focused on New York City. I really think he has a chance to do a great job. We're going to help him, but I really think he has a chance to do a great job. But I'll let you answer that. You consider yourself the leader of the Democrats. I think it's more appropriate for him.
I consider myself the next mayor of New York City, and I keep my horizons firmly on New York City, and I appreciate the meeting with the president, which focused again on the 5 boroughs and whether New Yorkers could afford to live there.
By the way, being the mayor of New York City is a big deal.
Absolutely.
I always said, one of the things I would love to be someday is the mayor of New York City. Being the mayor of New York, and especially now, because I think you're at really a turning point, one way or the other. It could go great, or it can go in a different direction. And I think you really have a chance to make it great.
And we mentioned the war of words between the two men that happened during the campaign. The president was also asked about that.
Mr. President, Republican Elise Stefanik has campaigned multiple times by calling Zohran Mamdani a jihadist. Do you think you're standing next to a jihadist right now in the Oval Office?
No, I don't, but she's out there campaigning, and, you say things sometimes in a campaign.
Isn't that sort of
She's a very capable person,
Isn't
but
that a kind of label?
you really have to ask her about that. But I don't particularly. I think I met with I met with a man who's a very rational person. I met with a man who really wants to see New York be great again. And I can say again, because New York was great. When I came down to Washington initially, the city was so hot. It was doing great. We were having some telltale signs of problems. We had a mayor that was not doing a great job, but still, it was moving along. And it went bad. It really went, pretty bad. And I think it's been at lower points, but it went pretty bad. I think he can bring it back. Now, the question is, will he bring it back all the way? Will he bring it back greater than ever before, which is, I guarantee, that's his wish. I think he wants to make it greater than ever before. And if he can, we'll be out there cheering. I'll be cheering for him.
You can see all of today's Oval Office meeting at cspan.org and the C-SPAN Now mobile app.
Зараз один з найважчих моментів нашої історії.
This is one of the most difficult moments in our history. The pressure on Ukraine is now at its most intense. Ukraine may now face a very difficult choice, either the loss of dignity or the risk of losing a key partner, or 28 difficult points, or an extremely harsh winter. The most difficult and further risk are life without freedom, without dignity, without justice, and believing someone who has already attacked us twice.
Part of a video released today by Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky as he considers the U.S. peace plan to end the war with Russia. The New York Times writing today, the 28-point proposal from the White House, which Kyiv has said was drafted without its involvement, would give Russia most of what it has asked for, including the surrender of Ukrainian territory and sharp limits on Ukraine's military. The plan would require Ukraine to accept conditions that it and its European allies have long called unacceptable and tantamount to capitulation. CNN also reporting that Russian President Vladimir Putin told a Security Council briefing late Friday that he had received the U.S. proposed plan for Ukraine and that he believes it, quote, could form the basis of a final peace settlement and that he was, quote, ready to show the flexibility that was agreed upon during the summit with President Trump in Alaska in August. He added that Russia had not, quote, substantively discussed the deal with the U.S. Now, in that clip, we heard President Zelensky mention a key partner. He did not mention who that partner was, but he went on to say in the video, quote, I will present arguments, persuade, propose alternatives, and promised a constructive search for solutions. Referring to Russia, President Zelensky said, quote, "We will absolutely not give the enemy any reason to say that Ukraine does not want peace, that Ukraine is disrupting the process, or that Ukraine is not ready for diplomacy." And the BBC writing today that the White House has pushed back on claims that Ukraine was not involved in the drafting of the plan, which emerged following meetings between U.S. Special Envoy Steve Witkoff and Russian counterpart Kirill Dmitriev. The draft plan emerged as Russia claimed small territorial gains in eastern Ukraine, and Zelensky faced a domestic crisis implicating top officials in a $100 million corruption scandal. That from the BBC today. And The Hill reporting today that President Zelensky said he plans to speak with President Trump in the coming days about the plan after discussing it with Army Secretary Dan Driscoll. The White House said Secretary Driscoll had felt optimistic about the meeting. More reaction now to the White House visit this week of Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman. And today at the Capitol, Virginia Democratic Representative Eugene Vindman reiterated the call he made yesterday on the House floor for President Trump to release the transcript of what Representative Vindman calls, quote, a shocking phone call between the president and the Saudi Crown Prince following the assassination of Washington Post reporter Jamal Khashoggi.
Given President Trump's disturbing and counterfactual defense of Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman this week, I felt compelled to speak up on behalf of the Khashoggi family and the country that I serve. This is why I took to the House floor to bring to light a call I reviewed during my tenure on Trump's White House national security staff. Out of all the calls with foreign leaders that I reviewed, two stood out as the most concerning. The first is well known, the call with President Zelensky that led to Trump's first impeachment. The second is a call between Mr. Trump and Mohammed bin Salman after the brutal murder of Washington Post journalist and a Virginia resident, Jamal Khashoggi. The Khashoggi family and the American people deserve to know what was said on that call. As I've said on the floor and in the past, if the past is any indication, the receipts will raise serious questions, and they will be shocking. All week, I've urged the president to release a transcript. Yesterday, I sent him a letter with 37 of my colleagues demanding the release of the transcript. I'm honored to have Ms. Khashoggi with me today, standing by my side as we remember her husband and call for transparency and accountability. We will continue pressing for the release of the transcript so the American people understand the truth. Our intelligence agencies concluded that Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman ordered the murder of Ms. Khashoggi's husband.
Virginia Democrat Eugene Vindman speaking to reporters at the Capitol today. You heard him mention Hanan Khashoggi. Here's part of what she had to say.
I heard this week something very disturbing me from President Trump about my husband. He's controversial and he's unliked. I would like to tell Mr. Trump you're expressing someone else, not Jamal Khashoggi. Jamal Khashoggi was most stable man. He was a role model to represent us as an Arabic and Muslim, and he accepts everybody regarding your ideology background as well. They try to paint him like he's a friend of Osama bin Laden or his Muslim Brotherhood, and all of this excuse. This not excuse to take his life away. There is no justification to kidnap him, torture him, and to kill him and to cut him to pieces. This is a terrorist act. What they did, this is 17 months in behalf of the order came from the Saudi authority. It's a terrorist act. And I try to take action. Even I'm standing alone. I'm trying to take action in different countries, which is I land because I have a privilege as a cabin crew. I land in these countries when I was under surveillance. After I fled to America and we discovered they spy on me since 2017 with different spy material, including the Pegasus and Celebrate as well. We try to take action against this. I'm starting legal action in France and in UK as well. I'm looking for a brave lawyer in Turkey as well to assist me.
Just Hanan Khashoggi speaking to reporters on Capitol Hill today. And just some background, Jamal Khashoggi was born in Saudi Arabia, left in 2017, and wrote several articles critical of the Crown Prince and the Saudi government in the Washington Post. He was assassinated at the Saudi consulate in Istanbul in 2018, an event U.S. intelligence officials have concluded was likely approved by the Crown Prince. And as we said, today's event followed the Saudi Crown Prince's White House meeting on Tuesday. The New York Times writing about that meeting, quote, a reporter attempted to ask the Crown Prince about his involvement in the brutal slaying of Mr. Khashoggi. Mr. Trump interjected to say, quote, things happen, and asserting that Prince Mohammed, quote, knew nothing about it. You're mentioning somebody that was extremely controversial, Mr. Trump said, referring to Mr. Khashoggi. A lot of people didn't like that gentleman that you're talking about. Whether you like him or didn't like him, things happen. But he knew nothing about it, and we can leave it at that. That from the New York Times. Here's more of today's event with Representative Vindman.
I know this week several members of the Democratic Party did meet with the Crown Prince. What is your reaction to that, especially when Leader Jeffries said that, Leader Jeffries met with him. What's your reaction to that?
Well, look, I think that we, as the preeminent power on the planet, as a leader really up till recent times of the democratic free world, we have to deal with nations, sometimes unsavory nations. We may take meetings with the leader of North Korea and China and Russia and Saudi Arabia, for that matter. But that doesn't mean we don't recognize them for who they are, that we whitewash their record, that we try to wipe away history, and in this case, a brutal murder, which is what the president did. And that's what really spurred me to action. As I said, there were two calls that were particularly concerning to me during my time at the White House. The Ukraine call and this call. And I think, given what we've seen in the ensuing years and the president's own comments, and the Woodward book, where he said that he saved MBS's ass, and how much profit he and his family have received from Saudi Arabia, I think releasing the call and the truly brutal facts and circumstances that we're very well aware of are critically important for the American people to understand, and also to provide Ms. Khashoggi some closure, that her husband's life was meaningful.
Virginia Democratic Representative Eugene Vindman. A White House Communications Director Stephen Chung said in a statement to The Hill, quote, Representative Vindman is a bitter backbencher who nobody takes seriously. He is a serial liar and was part of the hoax relating to the perfect Ukraine call, in which the Ukrainian president said so himself. You can see all of today's event at cspan.org and the C-SPAN Now mobile app. And more reaction to President Trump's accusation of sedition against 6 Democratic members of Congress. This comes after the 6 posted a short online video this week reminding still serving U.S. service members that they can and must refuse illegal orders. That prompted a series of social media posts from the president yesterday that called the video seditious behavior, punishable by death. He also shared and reposted other user comments, including posts that said the Democrats should be hanged. Last night, 2 of the 6 talked about it. Here's Senator Mark Kelly of Arizona on CNN.
What does it say when the White House press secretary has to deny that the president wants Democratic members of Congress executed?
Well, Kate, it says we are in uncharted waters. I mean, I never expected, after serving 25 years in the Navy, flying combat missions over Iraq and Kuwait, flying the space shuttle, that now I've got to worry about my personal safety and that of my wife, Gabby Giffords, who was already nearly assassinated because of something the president said.
Are you worried about your personal safety tonight?
Well, I'm in this job with rising political violence. You have to be concerned, and any president's words carry a lot of weight. He's got supporters out there that they listen to what he says, and when he calls for the execution of myself and 5 of my colleagues in Congress, that means something to a lot of people. And by the way, Caitlin, I think it's important to say that there is nothing more American than standing up for the Constitution. That's what we were doing. President didn't like it, so now he calls for us to be hanged.
And here's Senator Lisa Slotkin of Michigan on MS Now last night.
What has it meant for you to have the president say this about you, to call you seditious and treasonous and to repost someone calling for you to be hanged?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think it more than the six of us who filmed the video, it's really just a sad moment in American politics. I mean, we know that, but, you know, today it really came home for many of us. And I think for the six of us that filmed this, you know, we swore an oath to the Constitution many times before we got to Congress. What we were citing was literally chapter and verse from the UCMJ, the Military Code of Justice. And I think his reaction just is, you know, characteristic of a political system that no one is proud of right now.
Does something like this change your security situation? We heard Marjorie Taylor Greene talk about that last week. You're nodding your head. I mean, this has very tangible effects. I've seen and with other lawmakers in somewhat analogous situations.
Yeah, I mean, look, over the years, I've had threats here and there. It was instantaneous. I mean, hundreds, if not at this point, thousands of calls, emails, texts, obviously online postings. Capitol Police came to us and said, you know, we're going to put you on 24/7 security. We've got law enforcement out in front of my house. I mean, it changes things immediately. And leadership climate is set from the top. And if president is saying you should be hanged, then we shouldn't be surprised when folks on the ground are going to follow suit and say even worse.
Michigan Democratic Senator Alyssa Slotkin and Arizona Democratic Senator Mark Kelly speaking last night about the president's comments that they made a seditious video along with four other House and Senate Democrats who either served in the military or in the Intelligence Committee. And here's what the president had to say about it earlier today on the Brian Kilmeade Show on Fox News Radio.
I can say if I ever said that and there were a Democrat as president, all hell would have broken loose. And it has broken loose. I have had more calls from people, even Democrats, saying what a horrible thing that was.
So do you worry that someone on the Gerald R. Ford will say, hey, I don't want to do this Venezuelan mission. I don't want to sit out in the ocean. I'm out. You know, do you worry about them saying, I don't want to go to Chicago and be in the National Guard? I'm out. Do you worry about that?
No, I don't worry about anything like that because I'm a leader and they do as I say. But it certainly is not a good situation. It could happen with certain leaders. It could happen. I don't think that it happened with me, but you never know. Look, that was a very terrible. That was a traitorous statement. That was a horrible thing to do. I believe they broke the law very strongly. I think it's a very serious violation of the law. Yeah.
I know Todd Blanche seems to be looking into it. Your assistant deputy, or your deputy.
Well, I think
attorney.
Pete Hegseth is looking into it too. I know they're looking into it militarily. I don't know for a fact, but I think the military is looking into it. The military courts.
From the Brian Kilmeade Show on Fox News Radio earlier today. You're listening to Washington Today.
Giving Tuesday is coming, a global day to support the causes that matter most. I'm Paul from C-SPAN, and if open access to your government matters to you, you don't have to wait. Make your Giving Tuesday gift to C-SPAN today. We bring you live, unfiltered coverage of Congress, the White House, and the Supreme Court, so you can access your government without spin or commentary. C-SPAN is nonprofit, commercial-free, and receives no government funding. We're powered by listeners like you. Make your Giving Tuesday gift now at cspan.org/donate. And thank you for supporting C-SPAN, your unfiltered view of government.
Welcome back to Washington Today. From Punchbowl News, House Democrats plan to unveil a bill on Friday that would cut off funding for U.S. operations in or against Venezuela. The legislation led by Representative Seth Moulton of Massachusetts would bar the Trump administration from spending money on military campaigns targeting Venezuela unless lawmakers approve an authorization for use of military force. Now, here is Representative Moulton. He began his comments talking about the president's accusation of sedition by a group of House and Senate Democrats. He spoke earlier today outside the Capitol.
When Trump threatens lawmakers for stating that simple fact, that's not just incendiary rhetoric. It undermines our Constitution and our troops. Also, threatening the lives of members of Congress is, in fact, against the law. It should be no surprise that Trump is threatening lawmakers at the same time as he has ordered thousands of American service members to deploy to the Caribbean. When military lawyers at Southcom raised concerns about the legality of the Venezuela strikes, they were sidelined. There has been no authorization for the use of military force, no declaration of war, nothing. When the commander of Southcom raised concerns about the Venezuela strikes, he was sidelined. So put yourselves in the shoes of a young lieutenant or sergeant who's in uniform right now, watching the commander-in-chief threaten members of Congress to death for telling you to follow the law. You're watching him orchestrate legally dubious military strikes while sidelining military lawyers and commanders who say that those actions may be illegal and could therefore get you prosecuted for following those orders. You're watching him dare Congress to stop him. This is a dangerous mix, but some of us in Congress do intend to stop him. I've seen what being in a moral and legal gray area means in war. I and other members up here with me are here because we have seen what happens when Congress fails to question the wisdom of going to war. I served 4 tours in Iraq, a war that Congress failed to question when it mattered most. And we cannot let history repeat itself again. Let's be clear. The thousands of infantry Marines sitting on ships off the coast of Venezuela do not interdict boats. They do not conduct drone strikes. I know because I've been a Marine on those amphibious assault ships for months. Our only purpose was for fighting on the ground. That's why today we are introducing legislation to prohibit the administration from spending a single dollar to send U.S. troops into direct hostilities with Venezuela unless Congress specifically authorizes it. The Constitution is not ambiguous here. Congress decides when this country goes to war, not the president.
Massachusetts Democrat Seth Moulton. Punchbowl News writing that, quote, half a dozen leading lawmakers earlier this week pitched a resolution seeking to prevent the president from using U.S. forces against any group he's labeled as designated terrorist organizations within the Western Hemisphere. The Senate has blocked 2 similar resolutions in recent months. That from Punchbowl News. Here's more from Representative Moulton.
I actually spoke to Mike Rogers, I believe it was last week, about the arguments that he's heard from the administration. He went as far as to say that he thinks that the administration should take its argument to the American people, that there's a case to be made that he would argue is very strong for the executive branch exercising its powers in that way. I wonder, why do you think the case has not been made beyond to Congress as a whole, to the American people as a whole?
Because the case is incredibly weak, and so the administration wants to keep it hidden. Look, I have a lot of respect for Chairman Rogers. I couldn't disagree more strongly with his idea that this is a case that the administration would want to share. It's absolutely pathetic. I mean, this case wouldn't survive some mock court in high school. It's self-contradictory. It's ridiculous. And the reality is that if the administration were to share this with the American people would see with their own eyes how completely lawless this is.
Massachusetts Democrat Seth Moulton talking to reporters at the Capitol today. You heard the reference to Chair Rogers. That's Mike Rogers, who chairs the House Armed Services Committee. You can see all of this event at cspan.org and on C-SPAN Now. Also today, more discussion on the release of the Epstein files following the president's signature this week of a bill ordering their release. ABCnews.com writing, the exact nature of the documents yet to be released, what information they may include, and how redacted the documents may be remains to be seen. However, there are indications to be found based on the documents and other information already made public. That includes a catalog of material apparently obtained through searches of Epstein's properties in New York and the Virgin Islands and Palm Beach, Florida. Also photographs, travelogues, employee lists, and multiple documents related to property Jeffrey Epstein owned in the Virgin Islands, and pages of handwritten notes, multiple photo albums, and more than a dozen financial documents. That from abcnews.com. This morning, House Oversight Committee Democrat Emily Randall talked about what the Trump administration is doing to comply with the new law and existing congressional subpoenas.
The president and the Justice Department have also opened a new investigation, which
per the language in the Massey-Kana bill that was just signed, allows some redaction and withholding of documents that are related and that are in the Epstein files. Importantly, the subpoena that was issued by the Committee on Oversight and Government Reform, spearheaded by Summer Lee, doesn't include that same language. So the Justice Department and the Trump administration are obligated to release the full set of files to the committee. Now, they have been since we issued that subpoena, and they have not released the full set of files. So they are in violation of the subpoena that Chair Comer is not enforcing currently. So I guess I'll say we're taking a few steps forward, but it doesn't yet feel like the Trump administration is participating and fulfilling the requirements of the subpoena and this bill in the way that they're meant to.
Washington State Democrat Emily Randall on Washington Journal this morning. You can see all of that segment at cspan.org and on C-SPAN Now. Campaign 2026 news now. California Democratic Representative Eric Swalwell announced he will run for governor of California. He talked about it last night on Jimmy Kimmel Live.
You know, the way you're talking, I think there's, we all have this hope that this is going to end and that things are going to get better, and yet it just is hard to imagine that happening. What do we do? What are we going to do? How do you stop this?
Well, I'll tell you what I'm going to do. Mm-hmm. I love California. It's the greatest country in the world. Greatest country in the world. But that's why it pisses me off to see Californians running through the fields where they work from ICE agents or troops in our streets.
It's horrifying.
It's horrifying.
It's absolutely
or cancer research
horrifying.
Being canceled. It's awful to look at. And our state, this great state, needs a fighter and a protector, someone who will bring prices down, lift wages up. And we can say that we're the fourth largest economy in the world, and we are, and I love to brag about that. But what does that mean if you can't afford to live here? So I've been in these fights as a city council member up in Dublin, my hometown, as a prosecutor in Oakland, and taking on the most corrupt president ever in the U.S. Congress. But I'm ready to bring this fight home. So I came here tonight, Jimmy, to tell you and your audience that I'm running to be the next governor of California. I'm excited to do it. Yeah.
You know what?
Thank you. Thank you.
I'm glad to hear that.
Thank you.
Now, if I may, you're going to have to figure out the beard if you want to be governor.
You mean like go in the witness protection program?
Well, no, you're either going to have to go more beard or less beard, because you're in a beard nether region right now that we can't have.
Yeah. Well, thank God the best hair is term limited, and so...
Yes, right, yes. So just think about maybe either a shave or go full Dave Letterman. One of those two things. Yeah. I think that's the way to go.
Yeah,
like
full Dave.
I would like a prospector type. You are from Northern California. Right. Why not shine a light on that? That's right. The origins of our state.
Lean into it.
Representative Eric Swalwell is in his second term in the House. He was a manager in President Trump's 2021 impeachment trial. And also, New York Democratic Representative Nydia Velázquez announced that she will not seek re-election next year at the end of her 16th term in office. In a statement, she said she had, quote, poured her heart into everything she had done in Congress, stating that she first ran over 3 decades ago because she believed the voices in her community were not being heard, including immigrants, workers, and families struggling to get by. QNS.com noting Representative Velázquez was the first Latina to chair a full committee in Congress. She was chair of the House Small Business Committee. She's also a former chair of the Congressional Hispanic Caucus. And on tonight's new episode of Ceasefire here on C-SPAN, Florida Democratic Congressman Jared Moskowitz and Tennessee Republican Congressman Tim Burchett come together for a bipartisan dialogue that covered the Epstein files, healthcare, and stock trading by members of Congress.
You said just this week.
So you got me worked up.
Sorry, I know you got worked up. You said just earlier this week, you said this place is crooked as a dog's leg when you were talking about a bipartisan group of lawmakers discussing a bill that would ban members of Congress from engaging in insider trading.
Yeah, and everybody wants to knock Pelosi. Yeah, I mean, she's made, an incredible return on her investments. obviously, but she's like number 11 in the top 10.
This seems like a rule that people should get on board with.
That's right. It seems like maybe Congress would do what's right, but they're not going to.
Why not?
Because they're greedy, and you all let us do it. 12% of the population goes to the dadgum polls, and they get reelected every dadgum time. It's crooked. Go to the Unusual Wells website, read the top 100. I'm not in it. I think we're doing some insider trading. I think some people have some genuine knowledge and grasp of the economic system. Case in point, Jared Moskowitz. He was successful before he got to Congress. But these guys get in Congress, not worth anything, and they leave worth multi-million dollars. Man, we're briefed on stuff before you get it. We have people's ears. People are doing 600-700 trades a year. That's not right.
Do you agree that this should be a common sense piece of legislation?
So I'm on the legislation, right? I currently have a stock portfolio. My stock portfolio is managed by an outside company. They make trades. But I'm happy to comply, right? So like in the event this is where the House is going to go, if the Speaker puts it on the floor, I will vote for it, and I will divest that of all of my stocks.
But, ma'am, it's not going to happen. And I'm going to tell you, it will.
Do you think he's right? You think it's not going to happen?
I think Tim's right. The idea of us getting this past the House, the Senate, and to the President. Now, I will agree with Tim that it's not going to happen, but I'll agree for a broader reason, which he said, which is we just don't pass anything. So this is just another thing that gets cogged in the wheel, right? That we are no longer the greatest legislative body in America. I mean, we're a wonderful communications body.
Yeah.
Right?
I don't even know about that at the moment, but
hey, I communicate pretty well.
Tim does, I think, pretty well on communications. I mean, he's not holding back how he feels.
Well, that's true. I don't. But the bill will go to, if it passes, ma'am, it'll be some glowing piece of legislation. Go to the Senate, and guess what? They'll amend it to something else, something a little bigger, a little better that we cannot agree on, and then it will die. And both sides, the House will say, those old 100-year-old guys over in the Senate aren't doing anything. Then they'll say, those young punks in the House aren't doing anything. Because it's a game. It's a game, and we got to wake up.
Tennessee Republican Congressman Tim Burchett and Florida Democratic Congressman Jared Moskowitz on this week's new episode of Ceasefire with our host, Dasha Burns. You can see it on C-SPAN and hear it here on C-SPAN Radio at 7 p.m. Eastern Time tonight. You can also watch it on demand anytime at cspan.org and C-SPAN Now. That's also where you can find this program as a podcast. It's also on YouTube. Just search Washington Today. And for more on the stories that are shaping Washington every day, get our daily email word for word. Just go to cspan.org/connect to subscribe. I'm Gary Sterkoff. Thanks a lot for listening today to Washington Today.
C-SPAN's Washington Journal, our live forum inviting you to discuss the latest issues in government, politics, and public policy from Washington, D.C. to across the country. Coming up Saturday morning, Alliance to End Hunger President Eric Mitchell will talk about food insecurity in the U.S. and the future of federal nutrition programs. And then American Enterprise Institute Senior Fellow Naomi Schaefer-Riley talks about the state of the American foster care system and recent Trump administration actions to support youth transitioning out of foster care. C-SPAN's Washington Journal. Join the conversation live at 7 Eastern Saturday morning on C-SPAN, C-SPAN Now, our free mobile app, or online at cspan.org.